Hello, everybody. Welcome to Towns of 909, or welcome back if you are a great viewer, or welcome if you're new to this channel. Uh, Me and Bryar from Bryers Music Showcase will be reviewing the Byrds, technically their last album, Byrds. Yep, Byrds. Their reunion album. We're going to be reviewing another album called Pre-Flight, which was suggested to us, and
hmm
very grateful of that because I quite like that album. But this is technically their last technical studio album because technically Pre-Flight's a demo album. And
hmm
anything you'd like to add before we start reviewing the album?
All right. Okay. So, of course, I'm going to go through the history. So, I think we already brought it up, but this is a reunion album with the classic Byrds lineup. So, basically, McGuinn, they had just released they released Farther Along, which was the last album to feature with the lineup of McGuinn, Skip Batten, Gene Parsons, and uh, Clarence White. Of course, by this point, their popularity had gone back down because their previous albums had sold poorly and weren't received that greatly. And so, because of that, McGuinn was starting to feel a bit dissatisfied with the current lineup. At one point, he fired Gene Parsons, the drummer, so they had to get a replacement drummer, and so they were kind of just touring. They kind of just kept touring for a little bit. Um, and by 1973, by that point, a lot of the ex members were pretty much available. There wasn't a whole, they weren't really doing a whole lot at the time because, Gene Clark, he was kind of still doing his solo stuff, but wasn't really picking it up. Crosby, he was probably had the biggest success of all the former members because he was doing really well with Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and of course, and with Young as well. But they kind of took a break at this point, so Crosby was available, and everyone else, Chris Tillman, Michael Clark, were all also available. So they decided, why not? Management also suggested they do a reunion album, just to see if that'll generate some business. There was some legal stuff they had to do because McGuinn was still with Columbia, and and Crosby wanted to do it on his label. So they had to like do some stuff to get McGuinn on Crosby's label. And with that said, Crosby is producing this album. He's pretty much in charge here. Um, One thing that's note about this particular album was that um, even though it's credited as the Byrds, it's a little the way they made it was a little bit different than what they've done previously, where it's back in the early days it was a whole band affair. Everyone contributed to the music. But this one was kind of different. They decided to go where one person brings in the song and everyone else just backs them up. Basically, a bunch of their solo songs, except with the rest of the members, helping out. So, and whether that affected the album, we'll see. One the final note I'll give was that Crosby brought in some really good weed apparently, and so yeah, they were all pretty high making this album. So there you have it. That's the little history, and yeah, we'll see how well the album goes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first track on the album, we start off with a really strong song. It's called "Full Circle." What do you think about it?
All right, Full Circle, and last little fun note: Full Circle was supposed to be the name of the album, but they decided, just call it the self-titled. But yeah, this was written by Gene Clark, and this was originally part of his solo stuff. Basically dealing with the unpredictable nature of fame, which has become a big thing of Gene Clark about fame in general. And yeah, like you just said, this was a great opening track. I mean, it goes without saying that I don't think the Byrds I don't think they've ever had a bad opening track. I pretty much enjoyed all of them. Even Bird Maniacs, which probably has the weakest opening track, I still think that's pretty good. So that's good to know. Um, yeah, the music was pretty nice. I really enjoyed it. Really fitting opening track. I love the mandolin that Chris Hillman provides. Gene still sounds fantastic. His voice wise, and yeah, everyone else playing on here still sounds pretty tight. So yeah, this was a great opening track.
Yeah, this is definitely best opening track they've had for a while now.
Mm,
They've had some good opening tracks, but it's definitely the strongest one for a while now. I'd say the last like really good opening they had was Ballad of Easy Rider, and you know
mm,
uh, that was like their eighth album, and this is like their 12th
yeah.
album. So pretty long time since they made a really good opening track like that. Yeah, really good. Next track on the album, Sweet Mary.
All right. Sweet Mary, solid album to follow it up. This one's a bit folkier. This was written by McGuinn and Jacques Levy, which the two have collaborated on many times throughout this later period. Again, the mandolin was really good standout. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's just a nice, slow, kind of folkier track. Not as good as the first song, but still not too bad.
I actually really like this track.
Okay.
Another strong track on this album. Really good. I love the folkier songs with the Byrds, Led Zeppelin when they did it a couple of times. I've always liked when bands do like folky stuff, and yeah, it's a really strong track. Quite like it a lot. Next track on the album, Changing Heart.
All right. So this is another Clark original. Again, kind of singing about more about the downside of stardom. This is where the harmonies really come back into play. On the first two songs, I felt the harmonies weren't as prominent, but here the harmonies are definitely a bit more the focus here. The 12 McGuinn's 12-string guitars is audible here, which again is nice to hear it back. Because again, the first two songs it wasn't really that prominent, but here it's good to hear it. Solid bass playing. It's just a really good, pretty solid country rock song, and yeah, this was a good one.
I really love this track. Another standout.
Okay.
This is probably this out of all the post Sweetheart the Rodeo albums. This is definitely, in my opinion, the best one out of all of them. Uh, Breyer the champ.
Yeah, I'm the champ.
I'm assuming you won the trivia.
Yeah, I won the trivia.
Congrats.
I
Congrats.
won the trivia, and I'm doing 2 live streams back to back.
Nah, definitely.
Yeah.
You really are the champ. No time for losers because you are the
That's
champ.
right. Exactly.
But yeah, if you want a 1973 Byrds song that's like very similar to what they were doing back in like 65, 66, this is definitely a good song to go to. Like this reminds me of their first three albums. You know, Mr. Tambourine Man, Turn to Turn, and 5D. This reminds me of songs that would be on that album, and I mean that in like the most, and I mean that in the best way possible. Not like songs from 5D like the Learjet song, but like
Right.
higher
Yeah.
songs. Really good harmonies. Definitely a standout for sure. If like I said, if for anyone who thinks the Byrds can't do a good harmony, good harmonies or make good standout tracks in '73, they are wrong. They are truly wrong. This is fantastic. Next track on the album, For Free.
For free. All right. This was the first cover on this album. There's like 3 covers, I think. But this one was originally by Joni Mitchell, and this song was originally on her third album, Lady from the Canyon. It was track 2 on this album. And this one you have David Crosby on lead vocals. And yeah, Crosby of course sounds really good on the lead. Let's see what else I write. Of course, the big difference between Joni's version and this version is that this one, like Joni's version, is a lot more piano based. It's more of a piano ballad. For this, they definitely went more in that country, more acoustic realm, which I enjoyed. I still prefer Joni's, but that's just me. But yeah, it's a really good cover, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really good.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Joni Mitchell, so I don't blame you for having that bias. I heard this version first, so let me have a bias towards this version, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's another amazing track. I was very surprised how good this album was, especially side one. Very very surprised because
Hmm.
you think after not being all together for a while, you think they're gonna not sound as good as they do, but Crosby being as great as he is, well, besides maybe his work on the first Crosby, Stills and Nash album. I know Jason, that's one of his favorite albums, but besides some of his work on the first Crosby, Stills and Nash album, I'm starting to really enjoy Crosby, especially with his Crosby, Stills and Nash stuff.
Hmm.
Really, really starting to impress me, Crosby, and this song is no exception. He kills it really. I wouldn't go as far as say he makes it his own, but it does a really great job on it. I prefer it, but he does a really great job on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Closing out on side one, Born to Rock and Roll.
All right. Um. Okay, this was actually a song from what I've read. This was a song he had meant for the previous lineup, but of course he decided to bring it back for this album. But yeah, it's a good, pretty upbeat rock song. Just it's kind of an autobiographical type of song, semi. It's just basically McGuinn somewhat kind of looking back on his career up to that point. Born to rock and roll, that whole story. But yeah, this was let's see, yep, another pretty solid song. Yeah, I liked it.
I really love it too, actually.
Mm,
And this first side, all killer, no filler. Gotta
yeah.
say that. McGuinn, the way McGuinn sings it is like he sing. It's like he's the way he sings it. He's singing like he sings in the early Byrds days, which
Mm,
I could appreciate. Which, I
yeah.
feel like the
Yeah,
way
McGuinn's kind of he's not really outstretching because there are some songs in the later period where he's singing and I feel like it doesn't really match because I feel like it's doesn't have the right voice for it. But here, when he's in his range and when he's singing in the style that he's meant to sing, yeah, he sounds great.
yeah, definitely. He I don't know. I've always felt that with the McGuinn is that like he sings. There are times where I like, yeah, I kind of like when he goes out of his range, but like songs like this where he's just killing it because he sounds like you know McGuinn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. I went to use vinyl and CD store the other day, and I looked up Crosby, Stills, Nash. They had Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Deja Vu, and
Wow.
that's about it.
Wow.
Uh,
Yep. That makes sense. You're always going to find American Dream in the dollar section,
yeah.
which is
What
where I found
album?
mine.
What album are you talking about? I only see Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Deja Vu. I don't see that last third one you're talking about there.
Yeah, yeah, maybe a smudge. Yeah, that might be it. Maybe I was. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I need my glasses. I'm just
yeah,
seeing things.
yeah. Okay. Side two starts up with "Things Will Be Better."
All right, so here we have Chris Hillman coming in, writing as contributing. He actually this was a collaboration with him and another guy named Dallas Taylor. Um, the topic of this song is kind of something what Gene Clark was writing. Again about fame and stuff like that. But yeah, 12 string sounds great. Chris Hillman's on lead vocals, and he still sounds great. I've always enjoyed most of Chris Hillman's songs. Yeah, this was another pretty solid song. Very kind of good rock number from him. Just check and yeah. It was again some of these songs it's kind of hard ranking these songs because a lot of these were. I don't think there was any bad songs on this album. So again, all of them ranged from really good to pretty great. So yeah, this was good.
Yeah, I agree. This is a nice little rocker, and I don't think there's any mediocre tracks on this album either. Like,
Yeah,
there's
no, I
not a
don't think
single
so.
track where I'm like, to me, there's not a single second wasted on this album. Definitely a really strong album after some really questionable albums by them.
Yeah.
Talking to looking at you, previous two albums.
Yeah.
uh, but well, half of it I can't blame them because the last two albums were mostly rush jobs, and
Yeah.
they couldn't really blame them a whole lot, but still.
Right.
Heck of a
Yeah.
lot better. But yeah, it's a really good track. I'm a big fan of his work, Chris Tillman's work with the Birds.
Mm.
Definitely nice to see him contribute again for them. I definitely still think his contributions on Younger Than Yesterday are his best
Yeah,
contributions,
I agree. I'd say so.
but this is still really solid work, and even another song that he contributes is still really good. Okay, "Cowgirl in the Sand" is the next track.
Okay, and this is another cover, and this is a Neil Young cover. This was off his album Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. And Gene Clark is singing this one. And I didn't write again. I didn't write a whole lot. It's just a pretty good cover. I like the harmonica. Um, and yeah, everyone else sounds. The band sounds pretty good. And yeah, pretty solid. Another solid song. Actually, this was actually a big highlight for me. I actually quite liked it a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you one bit. This is a fantastic track. It's definitely an album that like instead of picking a dishonorable track, I'm just gonna pick a runner up for like instead of like top five and a dishonorable, I might have to like do top five and like a song that just happened to not make it to the top five because
Mm,
every song on this album is worth talking about. And this one too, it's a great cover, great harmonies. I'm not saying that's the only thing that that's good about the Birds. It's just a big highlight for them, and they're really shining it through on this album. Unlike a certain reunion album by a certain band called Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, where they just kind of shove it in your face, like, "Oh, you like us for the harmonies? Well, here you go. Here's the harmonies, right in your face."
yep.
This album is sort of like, "Hey, you like the harmonies? Well, here you go. You know, we're not gonna harmonize that all. We're not gonna make it in your face, but we're still gonna show you that we know that's your favorite part about us, and you know,
Mm,
really like it, really good." Uh, Good old Birds,
yep.
yes.
Good old Birds.
Good old. By the way, Zieb, we're including that pre-flight album. I think
Yep.
it's really good. I'm not going to go into more detail because we're going to review it next week. I like that album. Everyone knows this is nowhere.
Yeah, that's one I need to get at some point.
I
Yeah, I
should
need
check
more
that
Neil
out.
Young in the collection. Yeah, I definitely need more Neil Young in the collection.
I just need to listen to more. I just need to listen to more Neil Young because I'm a big fan of his work with Buffalo Springfield, Crosby,
Mm,
Stills, and
right.
Nash. So he always most of his songs are usually the highlights of the albums I listen to.
Mm.
So I should check them out. Okay, next track on the album, "Long Live the King."
All right. So here we have Crosby coming in with his song, and yeah, this is again pretty good. This is again didn't write a whole lot about it. It's just pretty good. Um, One thing I'll mention is that this was again another song about the music business. Long live the king. The execs and all that. But yeah, Crosby sounds good. I mean, I've always his voice is always pretty solid for these types of songs. Yeah, yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say. This is probably my least favorite David Crosby contribution, but still really solid.
Hmm.
Well, technically, he only writes two songs on the album, but
Yeah.
still, the one of two songs, even the one of the weaker songs, is still really good. Like this whole album is like just one good song after another. Yeah, I know I keep saying that, but like if you never heard this album before, it's definitely a good. You're definitely in for a good listen for sure.
Hmm.
Next track on the album, "Borrowing Time."
All right. So Chris Hillman back again, and this time he's collaborated with another guy named Joe Lala. What I don't know how you pronounce it. This is the shortest song on the album. You know, again, then this is another one of those songs I don't have a whole lot to say. It's short and sweet, doesn't overstay its welcome. It's kind of peppy, has good pep to it, which I kind of dug. But yeah, this might be. I guess it would be if I were to rank, I mean, we'll get to that when we get, but I will say it would. This is kind of my least favorite, but even that, I don't hate it. It's just not as to me. It's not as strong as a lot of the other songs on here. But yeah, that's it. That's all. That's Borrowing Time.
That's totally fair. I really like this track. Great track. Definitely very strong. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but definitely not as strong as the others.
Mm.
Next track, Laughing.
Laughing. All right. So Crosby coming back with his song, and this apparently was a song he had written when he was still with the Byrds, but it was not on an album. And he would eventually put this song on his I think his first solo album. So we kind of decided to bring it here. I have not heard his solo version, so I can't really couldn't compare. But I really this was a big highlight for me. This I like Crosby his vocals on here are just really good. Kind of going back to that raga rock sound they did back in younger than yesterday or Notorious Bird Brothers, just kind of bringing back that sound. Um, let's see. Yeah, it's probably my favorite song that Crosby contributed. Even when McGuinn sings, McGuinn's actually, yeah, McGuinn here sounds he sings as well. And he's pretty great as well. Yeah, this was a big highlight for me. I really like this song.
Yeah, for a good reason too. Just a really good song. Really good stuff. I went. It just barely edged out in my top five, but still,
Okay.
really good song. Last song on the album, "See the Sky," about to rain.
All right. So now we end this album on a cover, and it's yet another Neil Young cover. Um, I don't remember what song. I don't remember where this was originally from. But yeah, again, Gene Clark is singing lead vocals for this one. Um, Pretty solid way to go out on. Another one of those songs could have ended on a little stronger note, but still a very solid song to go out on. I love the ending where you have the mandolin and the guitar to kind of just close it out. Just a nice little bow to kind of um, put the whole band to a rest, shall we say? But yeah, it was a nice ending.
Yeah, honestly, it's definitely one of my favorite endings to a Birds album. Either my second or third favorite of their closers. Definitely a great way to nice last hurrah before being done. You know.
Yeah, thank God they didn't do a joke song.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, well, now's the time where I say five songs and a dishonorable song, but for my case, it would be five songs and an honorable song that just happens to not make the top six. But maybe you might differ for that. But yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, for my top five, number five, Sweet Mary. Even though I didn't say a whole lot about it, I still really enjoyed it. Number four, Changing Hearts. Number three, Cowgirl in the Sand. Number two, Full Circle. Number one, Laughing. And let's see, I do have a I kind of already said my dishonorable already. I already said Borrowing Time. So I'll give an honorable mention. Let's see. I guess for my honorable mention, I'll go with let's see, Things Will Be Better.
nice. My top five will be Borrowing Time, Full Circle. Those two songs are great. Born to Rock and Roll is my number three.
Mm,
Cowgirl in the Sand, and my absolute favorite song on the album is Sweet Mary. That
okay.
song, you know, that song alone makes this album worth listening to.
All
Uh,
right.
and the song that just happened, I already said it already, but the song that just happens to not make my top six was Laughing. Was my top five was that, which, I mean, if we're ranking it from worst to best, that's still high, but yeah. And what will your album rating be?
Rating. All right. So overall, very enjoyable listen. I've heard people review this album. I've read couple reviews, people have said the biggest critique they have of this album, where, they can tell this is not a whole band affair. Like I kind of mentioned in the beginning, it's just a bunch of the members bringing in a lot of their solo stuff, and everyone else is just backing them up. But I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. I think the songs are still pretty good on their own. Even if it's not a whole band affair, I think they did still do a solid job. The album sounds pretty good, and yeah, I still wouldn't say it's one of my absolute favorite Byrds albums, but definitely, like I said, a solid album to go out on. So I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Okay, 7.5. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I, on the other hand, like if you just ignore the fact that this wasn't a full band affair, I think this album is I think this album is perfect. This is easily the best album that they've done in a very, very long time. Best album they've done since 1969, I believe, with the Notorious Byrd Brothers. Like, I don't know, definitely the best album they've done in a very long time, for sure. Like, in terms of studio
I would say
albums.
so. Yeah.
I mean, they've done good albums like Ballad of Easy Rider. That's a good album.
Untitled was pretty good.
Untitled is another good album, but none of those albums really got as high as as some of their others. And my top two is still going to be still untouched, but
yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
it's definitely in my top five at least. In my
all right, that's good.
ranking,
That's good then. Yeah,
it's very strong.
very strong.
Definitely worth at least one listen. Like if you're a person who only listens to their early stuff and who thinks that like the Byrds are only really good for their first five albums with Crosby, and they're technically Crosby's in this album, but they're only good for their mid to late 60s albums. They're not really with anything else. Yeah. Definitely worth a listen. Now to look at the comments. Is Roger McGuinn the only Byrds member on all the albums?
Yes,
he is. He's on every single album. Does Bryers sleep with albums surrounding him?
Shh, no one needs to know that.
I was gonna say that's a question for Bryers.
Yeah.
Top five. Wow. One of the few. I'm kind of curious what your top five is. Just curious. I don't mean that in a, just curious. I don't mean that in the sarcastic way. Like I'm very curious. I'm assuming you would put 5D pretty high on your list. Snuggling those CDs.
That's probably for me.
Maybe Watts Records in your case.
Yeah.
I see that Foxtrot album behind you.
Oh yeah, got the Foxtrot, Queen. You can't really see, but I also have Steely Dan as well. The band, the Beatles, and Kate Bush.
Foxtrot's my favorite Genesis album.
Same here. Yeah, it's still my favorite.
It's perfect. Do you think the live version of the last track is your favorite version, or with Phil Collins, or is Garrett the only one who thinks that?
So you're talking about the live version on Seconds Out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, I think I still prefer Peter Gabriel, but I will say Phil does a really great job on the Peter Gabriel stuff.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, so yeah, even if I do think Peter Gabriel, I do prefer Peter Gabriel. I mean, I still pretty enjoy Phil's version, because the whole band still sounds incredible during that time.
Okay, 5D, Younger Than Yesterday, Notorious Byrd Brothers, Untitled, and Dr. Byrds.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a
very interesting list. Very good list. Even though I disagree with a couple of those picks, I disagree with 3 of those picks. I still think it's a really strong list.
Yeah.
I don't. Here's my thing: is I don't think a list should agree. I don't think a list should agree with mine in order to be a strong list. That's me
Unless
though.
it's that one. Unless it's that is that one Led Zeppelin list.
Oh no, no, that list is just garbage. Oh my god, just Gallows pull at 69. Are you kidding me? I don't even want to think about that. I remember not too long ago you didn't have any.
Yeah, that's when I didn't have any records. Those were just innocent days.
Back when you were just known as Bryers CD Showcase.
That was a day. But then I grew up. I became a man.
Yep. The two Byrds albums I don't care for too much is Sweethearts of the Rodeos and parts of their first two. Oh,
Okay.
you're talking about Mr. Tambourine Man, Turn. Interesting.
Interesting. Okay,
Jason will
I would agree with a little bit on the Sweetheart of the Rodeo.
Jason definitely
I
will
still
disagree.
enjoyed it though.
Jason will definitely disagree on the first two albums because I think that's
Yeah.
his.
Yeah,
At least the first one,
Jason
that
loves
is.
the first two albums.
Yeah. But yeah. And I meant Ballad of Easy Rider as the second, even if it includes their best song ever, the title song. Yeah, I figured that. I mean, the title track is great.
Yeah.
Track.
Love the title track.
I'm starting to really reconsider if we should just do like a total top 10 of their entire discography, or if we should just do like separate top 10s, like top 10s of their first 10 albums and then top 10 of their second 10, like their second half.
No, I think we can do. I think we can keep it general. I don't think we have to separate it.
Yeah, because their second half of their catalog is so much different than their first half.
Right. But then, yeah, I think I can. I know I do have my top 10 on the way, and I pretty much have a pretty good variety for the most part. I have some stuff. I mean, I mostly have stuff from the early stuff, but I have a couple songs from the later stuff.
Yeah. If I combine a LP of the first two albums, I have one of their best on my hand, but too many cover songs overall. But that's a fair critique.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I did say if the two Byrds, because the first two Byrds albums came out in the same year, so it would be cool if they had put them together to make a double album.
That would have been weird to have a double album for your first album, though.
Maybe,
I know Chicago did that, but like
right,
that was
okay,
around the time when double albums started becoming really popular. Like after Dylan started doing that with Blonde on Blonde. But my thing though is that like by the time Dylan was doing that, he was already established, so people were going to be more accepting of a double album from him. But like by the time the Byrds were doing, when the Byrds were making music, they weren't really established, so people were going to look at because take in mind double albums cost more money. People are going to look at this new band and be like, I'm not going to pay more money for a band that I never heard before. But like Dylan or the Beatles would be like, well, we love the Beatles, we love Dylan, so we're going to spend the extra money for a double album. That's just how I think of it.
Yeah,
but not a bad idea though. Like if they would have made an album beforehand, if they were become popular, then they would have had that idea. But my idea was that like take the best songs from Mr. Tambourine Man, take the best songs from Turn, bam, you have a great album on your hands. They do love their cover songs, but they are often better than the original. True.
Yeah.
I agree on that too. I agree with Jason. I agree with G-Deb. But yeah, that would have been the only thing stopping them from making a double album, is that they weren't really established yet. That was a good idea though. Like it would have made a really good double album. Like switch up the order of the songs.
Yeah.
Have Turn obviously start up the album. Have that as the title track.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add on their catalog? Not catalog, this album.
Like we said, this was a really good album to go out on. I think they went out on a high note. But yeah, we'll see where it lands in our ranking. But yeah, this was a good one. And definitely interested to check out that that little demo compilation. That should be an interesting one to cover.
Yeah. Shout outs to Zeb for bringing me to that album. I'm not gonna tell you where it ranks on my list, but it's pretty high on my list. Really good. The weird thing is, Byrds fans seem to neglect Roger McGuinn's solo career. To me, it's still the Byrds. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Dot 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 dot. And better than their last two. Yes, I mentioned it in the middle of our review, but yeah, I was like, this is definitely one of their better albums.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Bird Maniacs, and Farther Along.
Yes.
I mean, Farther Along isn't a bad album.
It's just it's like average.
It's an average album, but after giving us Younger Than Yesterday and Notorious Bird Brothers, I expect a lot more from them.
Exactly.
Like once you give us amazing music, we almost sort of expect it from them, because we know they're capable of making great music.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going through the catalog and being very disappointed with those two albums. I'm like, do I really want to check out a reunion album? Like, what if that album sucks?
Yeah, right.
But then I listened to it. I'm like, you know what? This is actually really good.
It's better than most reunion. Yeah, it's definitely better than most reunion albums.
American Dream.
Yeah.
That's probably the shining example of the worst reunion album.
Right. Yeah.
I've heard some atrocious reunion albums, but American Dream tends to not just that up a notch, or not brings it down, depending on how you look at it. But don't forget the 4 songs reunion thing in 1990.
True, but they're not. I don't think they're on an album, so
yeah, I don't. I'm only reviewing album track. Well, technically single tracks too, if we can count the ones that end up on albums. But yeah, my whole thing was to review the albums. I thought Gene Clark was the best singer and songwriter. That's fair.
Yeah, I think I do see. Yeah, I think Gene Clark was, especially early on, was definitely the strongest songwriter at that point. But I mean, Crosby has done some pretty solid stuff, and I've always liked a lot of McGuinn's stuff. And even Chris Hillman is pretty good as well. Pretty much all the big songwriters were pretty good in their own right.
I definitely have to say though, Chris Hillman definitely wrote the best songs on Younger Than Yesterday.
Yeah. There might be a Chris Hillman in my top 5 songs, in my top 10 songs.
Yeah, definitely, at least one. I thought he was a singer-songwriter. Only on the box set. I'm assuming those 4 songs. Roger was the best musician and song arranger.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, just his 12-string. Just, I mean, we're getting to. We should probably save these for the retrospective video.
Yeah, because don't want to go over too much. The box set I have, there is a season. I think they only added one of those 4 songs.
Interesting.
Okay. Didn't G co-write 8 Miles High?
Yeah, he did. I think he did. Of course, I've heard some debates about that, whether how involved he was, but generally they usually credit Gene as part of it. And I think Gene. I've watched an interview with Gene, and I think he has clarified. I think he has verified that he did help write that song.
Yes. But yeah, very very fun album. Very excited to review Pre-Flight because I was surprised because normally I don't really think about demo albums or reviewing them, but just listening to it, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely worth. Not only is it worth reviewing, but I think it's worth adding to the discography ranking too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anything else? The comment section, would you like to ask or say before I end off the video? Story Let Down by the supposedly masterpiece No Other Guy. No, I don't want to say guy. No Other by Gene Clark. I gave it away.
I love No Other.
Yeah. I should definitely listen to Roger McGuinn's solo albums because
Yeah, it definitely sounds interesting.
I just listened to Crosby's first solo album. It's really good.
Hmm.
Don't expect. I'm not expecting to review it anytime soon. Obviously, I would ask Bryer if he would like to join me on that, but I'm not thinking about reviewing that album anytime soon. Even just in general with the solo albums, I'm not. Maybe someday along the
Yeah.
line after
Yeah.
we review a couple of more '60s American artists
Yeah.
like Buffalo Springfield and the Mamas and the Papas and stuff. I'd be like,
Right.
hey, wanna revisit the Byrds and check out their solo stuff.
Yeah. I'll be down for that. Nice little, maybe. Yeah,
Nice
definitely would.
little
Full
what
circle,
is
bring it full circle, basically.
yeah, or just like be like, hey, be like, hey, remember when we used to do Bird reviews? Roger McGuinn's first five, Crosby's first, and parts of the three McGuinn Clark albums are great. Flying Burrito Bros, I didn't care much for. I'd figure that because you weren't crazy about Sweethearts of the Rodeo, so I figured you wouldn't be crazy about them either.
Yeah, they're definitely more country.
They're not a band that I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna be going to be reviewing. Maybe if you want to review it, Bryer, I wouldn't mind checking them out more. But
I'm not in a rush.
yeah, they're not a band that I'm like we have to review them. Like I don't know. The three American bands I do really want to check out with you is of course Mamas and the Papas. What's it called? I already mentioned it too. Buffalo Springfield. They only had 3 albums, so that'll be very quick series to go over. And another band I really another two I'm thinking of right. Well, I see about another one, but another one I'm also thinking of. But Loving Spoonful. I don't know if you've heard about their albums before.
Yeah, I've heard about. No, a couple hits. Yeah.
You ever listen to their albums before, like full length?
No.
Yeah, I'm excited for that then. And the Turtles.
Oh yeah, Turtles. I've heard them. Yeah.
Of course, when you think of the Turtles, you think about the hit song "Happy Together."
Yeah, Happy Together. That's like the big song I know.
Yeah, you ever heard? Eleanor?
Probably not.
Gee, I think you're swell.
Yeah, I might have heard on passing, but never sat down to listen to it.
Okay, I'm gonna end the podcast, and hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys next time. Oh, where's your favorite Monkeys LP? Oh man, now I'm thinking about the Monkeys now. Thanks a lot, Zia. That's another band we gotta go over, Bryer. I know you have that awesome 5 CD collection.
Yeah, I do. And yeah, but yeah, I will say my favorite is Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Jones Limited.
Yeah, that's an amazing album. My favorite is either that or Byrds, Bees, and the Monkeys. That's also amazing. I'm trying to get into them. They're amazing. Their third, fourth, and fifth album are my favorites.
Yeah, and their TV show's not too bad. It's not half bad either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything you like to add? Hopefully, I'm hoping you don't remind me of another artist because I don't want to go too much. But I'm gonna write down the ones that we do got to go through prior. My main priority is the Mamas and the Papas because they're my favorite American band. Normally we talk about British artists on Garrett's channel and my channel, so I try to bring a little patriotism in terms of
right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look for the video. Oh, I have 2 of the
best of
the Byrds, the Bees, and the Monkeys. Yeah, cool. Byrds, the Bees, and the Monkeys is my favorite album of theirs. It's their definitely. I consider Pisces Aquarius to be. Then I gotta get Pisces Aquarius Limited. You're very welcome. I consider this to be their Sgt. Pepper's, and I consider this to be their White Album because the Byrds, the Bees, and the Monkeys, like they were recording in different studios. It was sort of like the same thing that the Beatles were going through in '68, but they didn't release a double album. They only released a single album. You're welcome. Thank you for watching, Zieb. Hope to see you next time in the next Byrds review. See you next time. So long.